Welcome to the Mazda CX-30. This is an SUV, and I'm telling you it's an SUV for a very important reason. The Mazda CX-30 is based on the Mazda 3, but a Mazda 3 this is not. This is taller, has a higher center of gravity. It's a bigger vehicle. It's an SUV. And therefore, it handles differently, it rides differently. As easy as it could be to think that you might be able to just simply substitute a Mazda 3 or a CX-30 with one another, you really can't do that. Because if you're in the market for one, and then you end up with the other, you will be disappointed. The Mazda 3 is sporty, low slung, low center of gravity. The CX-30, it's got a higher ride height. It's slower. The ride isn't bad. It's smooth. It's quiet. It's refined. But it's still a totally different experience. So why would you buy a CX-30 over a Mazda 3? Well, if you're somebody who needs the extra people room and extra cargo room, that might be something you would kind of give some consideration to the CX-30 for. If you're somebody who sits in traffic a lot and you don't really care as much about handling, then I guess you could also say CX-30. If you do care more about what the handling is like and quicker acceleration, then you would be getting the Mazda 3. So the CX-30 slots right below the CX-5. It comes between the hatchback and the CX-5. So if you are looking for something space-wise, size-wise, that fits in that gap, then that's where this would come into play. I've driven CX-5s, and being the owner of a Mazda 3 hatchback, I'm pretty familiar with that. And this is a very middle-of-the-road vehicle. It's not bad. There are far worse vehicles out there than the CX-30. But there are also better. Now, if you're cross-shopping this against something like the Subaru Crosstrek, the Honda HR-V, Chevy Trax, those smaller SUVs, go with this. If you're cross-shopping this and a Lexus UX, which could be justified, I actually think you're going to be better off with this. And why in the world would you compare a Lexus and a Mazda? Well, because this will get you into that premium level that premium luxury experience, but not at that same price. With the Lexus, you pay for the Lexus badge. With the Mazda, well, you get a different badge, and it's still a good badge, but it sure doesn't cost as much. So what does the CX-30 do well? It's quiet. It's smooth. It's easy to drive. You have a good commanding view of the road from the driver's seat. You're not so high up that it's like driving a bus. It's comfortable in here. What could the CX-30 do better? Acceleration. This is slow. It is very, very noticeable how much slower this is than a Mazda 3 hatchback. This will... You've got to fight if you're going up a hill. It's a bigger vehicle. I've also found myself tapping the brakes a little bit for corners that I should otherwise be able to take at full speed in the Mazda 3. But again, bigger vehicle, higher center of gravity. This is the furthest thing from the worst vehicle in the world. And you could actually be happy driving one of these as long as you're not looking to light up the racetrack. Or as long as you're not looking for something that is a sportier experience. This is a very relaxed vehicle. It's very chill. It's smooth. It's got all the right kind of look and feel for a sleek luxury vehicle. And you could argue that the styling is sporty. But the handling, that's where it's not sporty. This particular CX-30 is missing the paddle shifters, which I miss. I'd love to have those paddle shifters. They work wonders in the Mazda 3. I love having the paddle shifters. You can, of course, pop this into manual mode and use the shifter to go towards you to upshift and away from you to downshift, which is exactly the way that it's supposed to be. But the overall experience doesn't really line up quite right with that. Obviously, I'm just letting this car do its own thing in automatic mode. It works. And that's kind of just exactly it. It works. This car will get you to wherever you need to go, and it's going to do a good job of it. It's just not going to be the most exciting way to do it. This is going to give you, though, a quiet, refined ride. The handling, although not necessarily super sporty, it's not dull. There could be more feedback that comes through the steering wheel. It's a little video game controller-like. It's not super numb. It's not super boring. It works. So overall, it's quiet, it's smooth, it's refined, it is luxurious, but it's not super thrilling. It's not incredibly exciting. It's an all-around good SUV, but you have options. And if one of those options is actually the Mazda 3 hatchback, even though, no, it's not an SUV, but because this is based on the Mazda 3 hatchback, and that comparison is something that people consider, you would actually be much, much better off getting the Mazda 3 hatchback. Unless you really, really needed the SUV, Mazda 3 hatchback is going to be the better experience at the end of the day. So, next visit to your Mazda dealer, if you're considering a CX-30, go ahead, take it for a test drive, evaluate it very, very closely because it is a middle-of-the-road option. It's not bad, it's not horrible, it's good, but it's not the best.